Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we're talking to Sadiqah Musa. She's a lead data analyst and until recently at the Guardian News and Media, now Trustpilot, but more importantly is the co-founder of the brilliant and fast-growing community Black in Data. And Sadiqah, I welcome you onto the show. Really looking forward to talking to you about how you, more importantly, are creating opportunities for Black people in data. A very important cause and definitely an underserved in this industry. So thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, more than welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Brilliant. So yeah, let's start with you. I always like to do that. It'd be great to just hear a bit about you, your background, and importantly, your personal experience of kind of getting into data and help us kind of get this conversation going.
Yeah, so mine wasn't a traditional route into data. So I went
Okay.
into university, studied geophysics, and thought, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, right? Because it offered me the opportunity to travel to Middle East, West Africa. But doing that for such a long time, it was just not really fulfilling for me. I
Okay.
felt like I was working far too many long hours, missing out on birthday parties. My friends completely ghosted me. Nobody communicated with me because I wasn't there. I was just working so hard.
Right.
So I just had like a moment in my life where I just wanted to have a little bit more of a purpose rather than just working for the working's sake. I wanted to have value in what I was doing.
Mm.
So I went on a sabbatical, right?
Okay.
Which I called it. Everybody asked me, oh, so Sadiqa, what are you doing
How
with your life?
how long was that?
The plan was for it to be 6 months, but it
Okay.
ended up being 2 years.
Oh wow. Great.
Yes. I know, terrible. So I called it my journey of self-discovery.
Okay.
And for me, it was the best decision I'd ever made. I was almost at breaking point, working so much, not sleeping enough, not eating well. So just taking that break to
Mm.
really take time to travel, do things that I enjoy, not having the stresses of life. And I understand not everybody's fortunate enough to just,
Up
completely stop
sticks, yeah, and
working.
go. Yeah.
Exactly, and just go up. So I was really, really fortunate to be in a position where my family were super supportive and they continued supporting me financially until I figured out what I wanted to do. So it was during that process that I discovered SQL and Python and Tableau. I fell in love with Tableau and I met those Tableau rock stars who were able to do amazing data viz. And I thought,
Brilliant.
this might be the thing for me.
Okay.
So
Hang on. Where on your
yeah.
sabbatical did you go that led you to SQL, Python, and Tableau? I was
So
thinking
that
you were going to, you're going to travel the world on a train. You were going to countries you've not been to, but
I
you
did
ended
do
up in
that.
SQL and Python. How did that happen?
I did do that. So I did Indonesia for a very
Okay.
good long time, but I did not discover SQL and Python in Indonesia.
Okay.
SQL and Python happen online as you do because you can travel the world online as well, right? So as I was just searching through things that I could still so transferable skills, so things that were
Yeah.
still mathematical, still based in science, because those are the things that I really love
Hmm.
and the things that I know I'm good at. There was no way that I could leave all of that and become, say, an artist, for example. It's just not me. I don't have that skill set. So it
Right.
was just Googling things. What could a geophysicist potentially do? And Google was fantastic. It said to me, data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning. I thought, oh, okay, what is that? And then I started sort of further researching what that meant and then connecting with people that were already in that industry.
Right.
So no, I didn't learn it in Indonesia. I wish I
Okay.
had actually. That would be more of an epic story,
On the
right?
beach with your laptop on the beach, just coding like mad.
No, I was in
Didn't
rice
happen.
paddies. I did not take any electronics with me.
Very good. So you're on the sabbatical. It sounds like Google was your career advisor.
Yes.
It led you down some options. Obviously, you sort of attached yourself to that because, as you say, it sort of baked in the kind of experience that you'd had before in the geo physics space, and you kind of self-taught. You went on some
No,
courses. What sort of
it
happened there?
wasn't self-taught. So I actually joined an actual academy. that had a structure. So I like structure. I like to know what I'm doing at 9 in the morning, and then what time is breaking, or what sort of components and things that I'll be looking at. So that was perfect for me. I know that there are a lot of free resources that people can self-taught, and they are just as fantastic. But for me, I really needed that one-to-one. I appreciated if I got stuck, I'd have somebody to say to me, oh, by the way, you forgot the little comma over there. And it's usually something as silly as that, right? So it was a proper structured course for about 4 months it was. And they touched on multiple different things like SQL and Python, data viz. But I think what they did really well for me was that those other softer skills that you don't really get from self-taught data courses. So being able to stand in front of a classroom and present your project was, I felt, the icing on the cake for that particular route that I took.
Yeah, cool. And then you liked it enough to sort of make a career 2.0 out of it.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it. I like that aspect of investigating things, right? Really seeing a problem and allowing data to lead you to the solution.
Yeah.
That was the thrill for me. I felt like, I don't know, some type of Sherlock Holmes when I was doing it, cracking that mystery.
Investigating, finding out what's really happening. So talk to me about the sort of the last few years then, sort of the roles you've had. I think I mentioned in the opening there that you were at Guardian News and Media with a good industry peer of mine, Catherine Bryan, who's a legend. And I know you've moved on recently to Trustpilot. So what sort of your analytical career, I suppose, your analyst career over the last few years been like, and what kind of things have you been focused on?
So I've been predominantly working, or for the past 4 years, that has been, as you said, at The Guardian with amazing bunch of people, super supportive. I was sitting under the reader revenues community within The Guardian. And for us, we focus predominantly on user behavior. So analytics understanding when a user comes onto our platform, what do they see? How long do they stay with us? What does their engagement look like? And using all of that data to feed into our marketing department, for example, and then they can structure a marketing campaign specifically around a topic or a product that we're planning to sell. With the reader revenues section, our main focus was really about how can we increase that revenue from the products that we have. So from the app that we have, the amazing Guardian app, to the digital subscriptions, right down to the contributions model for the business. So really engaging with our customers, making them continue to develop that affinity to the brand, and ultimately helping us to increase the revenue.
Got it. Brilliant. Well, that's heartland for analysts. So sounds like you might have had a lot of fun there.
It was amazing. What I would say is I never did anything twice. So every project that I was on was definitely pushing my skill set. So from segmentation and profiling to actual email campaign strategies, right down to creating strategic initiatives that would support the growth of the business. So every day was different. I really did enjoy my time at The Guardian.
Brilliant. Well, that's great. I want to sort of move on to the topic of creating opportunity for Black people in data. So you have a really interesting story about your route into data. You sort of found it, but you had your baseline of that kind of skill set from the degree that you had and the sort of early career that you had. You were supported through a kind of a journey to try and find what direction I want to go in next. What are the, is that common route that you see? But I suppose, what are the kind of current issues and challenges that are facing other Black people to either do, emulate what you've done or do something similar or get into data in some way?
Yeah, so I think with a lot of people that I speak to within our community, I don't know if I've met anyone that actually went to university and thought, this is the career that I wanted to do. I know I want to be an analyst or a data scientist. Majority of the people that I've met along my journey have just stumbled onto the career of analytics. And a lot of that stems around that visibility aspect. We don't really see people that look like me within the data space, whether it's on information brochures or university open days, or even on websites when people are advertising with around data, machine learning, AI. It tends to be a very generic I guess, white male face, if you don't mind me saying. So the problem with that is when you don't see people that look like you automatically assume that space is not for you to occupy. So that is one barrier, the fact that we don't see it. The option is just never out there for us. And accessibility into data around the whole, CV stage where, ethnic sounding names are more likely to get through, to be picked up by recruiters or hiring managers. And again, if you are successful and your CV does get seen, there's that barrier of when you come to the interviewing stage, again, people tend to hire and feel a stronger connection with those that look and sound like them, or perhaps they have the same experiences or upbringing. So those are some of the challenges, but there are many, many, many more that we could go into.
It's and of course it's a huge shame and a situation that shouldn't exist. Easy to say, difficult to change, right? And I know you're doing a lot of work in this space. So yeah, you mentioned a community. So in what ways have you started to sort of help data professionals or non-data professionals to get into the profession and start to remove some of these barriers, these accessibility issues, these biases that exist? Because I think that's the way that we're gonna sort of change this, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think I could split it into two streams. So the work that we're doing within the Black community and the work that we're doing with organizations, because they have to run in parallel, right? Change in minds and attitude has to start within those organizations, and also supporting Black people to empower them, right? I don't ever go, some people talk to me about changing their names so that they can have a better chance of landing a job.
I've heard that happen. Yeah, I've heard that happen.
Absolutely. Friends of mine do it, and they do it because they see the results.
Yeah.
Their CV, the content of their CV doesn't change, but the only thing that they change is just the Anglo-sounding name, and then they get their foot through the door. For me, I actively discourage that because I feel like we need to be in a space where society accepts us for who we are. Educating the organizations to say what is in a name, right? I'm Sadiqah, whether I'm Sadiqah, Sandra, Samantha, I come with the exact skill sets, right? And I'm a value and an asset to your organization. And if they cannot see that, I tell the people within my community, that is not the space for you, because that could potentially, lead you into a very toxic working environment. So the way that we support our community is from the mentoring scheme that we have started. So far we have paired up over 120 different mentors and mentees. And what that does is it really works on that confidence aspect to coach somebody. Once you have a more experienced data professional, they've been through all the hurdles that I guess a more junior data professional is likely to experience. So they equip them with specific skills that they may need to be able to really truly bring their true selves into the working environment and potentially thrive there. We also do meetups. So with our meetups, they're just super casual. We meet, we discuss data, we discuss different techniques in creating the recent one that we did was about how to create a facial recognition robot, which was absolutely phenomenal. So we touch on technical things as well as softer things to support Black people in the working world. We do workshops around salary negotiations because we know there is a massive ethnicity pay gap that exists on top of a gender pay gap. So if you are a Black woman, you are in that double whammy bracket where you're not only facing sexism, but you're also potentially facing racism in the working environment. So how can we support our base to cope with situations like this, be better negotiators when it comes to salary, when it comes to microaggressions, how to deal with them, and what sort of support is out there for them within their organizations that they could reach out to prevent things like that from happening. And I think on the organizational side, we do run workshops. We do I guess, work closely with organizations that are in the process of changing their policies people that want to be more inclusive in terms of their working practices. Things, as I said, maybe by reporting their ethnicity pay gaps. If they don't do it, get them to start thinking about how they can potentially start doing that and the benefit that they will receive. All organizations want to see, okay, what's in it for me, right? Nobody's out here doing charity work. They really want to see, how does that affect or impact my baseline? So we talk about the retention element. Once you have that transparency in your organization, people will be more productive. They will feel like they belong and they will stay with you longer, therefore supporting that baseline and increasing your revenue as well. So there are many, many things that we do, from the jobs board to the podcast that we run, and more recently, the Teens in Data program that we just started. So what that does is we go into secondary schools, or I guess sixth form, so students, I beg your pardon, that are between the ages of 16 and 18. So just before they go into university, and we run a 5-day workshop for them around football analytics. So they get to play around with Python, do a bit of data exploration, data viz, and at the very end of that 5-day workshop, they present back their findings to us as if they're in like a real life stakeholder situation.
Oh, lovely. That sounds like you learned that from your early course that you went on during your sabbatical.
I loved it, and it works really well for me. Yeah. And I just wanted to give that back to the students to build their confidence as well.
So much in what you've just said in the last few minutes that too much, which is brilliant. And I just to kind of go back some bit, but I wanted to kind of understand. So I guess what led you to, because it's easy just to be in the industry or not, and sort of all this happens around you, but you've made a conscious decision to, you've got a full-time job, you're very busy. I'm sure you've got a busy social and personal life as well. So what kind of led you to go, do you know what? Someone has to do something kind of transformational, or at least some change, and put some focus on this. And what led you to take the step and to do something?
Yeah. Totally on a selfish level, 100%. So I just did not like the feeling that I had of always being the only Black face in every single space that I occupied. So that sense of imposter syndrome, that loneliness, that sense of isolation. Why should I feel this way when I'm a South London girl? Everybody looks like me where I am. It is like a multicultural community, and it's so beautiful. And I see the value in mixing with people from different cultures, from different backgrounds. And that just wasn't reflected in the office when I step into the working world. That completely is eradicated totally. And so when I met Davina, who's the co-founder as well of Black in Data, it was like I feel, like that moment, heavenly sound that you hear in movies. It was just, I met my person, and I was like, is this how the other half live? So, so for me, living like the only person that exists in the world, meeting someone else that looks like me in my same environment. And more importantly, she was a senior analyst then. So I felt like she was thriving and she was getting promoted and recognition. She was doing fantastic work. This could potentially be me. So the both of us sat together. We were like, and she had the exact same feeling as well, coincidentally. She'd never worked with another Black female either until that moment. So we said to ourselves, what can we do to give back to our community so that other women or Black men as well that are feeling this way can have this amazing feeling that we have? Like, we have met our person that supports me both technically and on a personal level. When I'm feeling down, she's my go-to person. I know she has my back. How can we grow this community so that people within, I guess, Black people can feel like they belong in workspaces? And that's how we created Black in Data.
It's my summary of that sort of is in some ways that you found someone that was like you were able to, you had the similar experiences, and together you look at let's support and help other people do it. And did you like, where did you go with it? Was it kind of did you have a clear plan where you wanted to take the community, or was it just let's just create a space and run with it and see? Because I've created a few communities myself, and I know you could as planned as you want, but actually sometimes you've got to roll with it a bit.
So we sat on it for a very long time because we wanted to perfect everything down to the T. And we just got to a point where we're like, no, Davina, it's never going to be perfect. Let's just roll and let's do it. So we just we had an idea of what we wanted the purpose of the community to be, but we really at that point didn't understand how to structure it overall, how to get engagement from the community, how to grow the community. So all of that completely has happened organically. We knew we just wanted to bring people together. We've got a platform. So when we started, it was during lockdown, everybody's online. So we thought, let's start a virtual group. And then slowly but surely that group has now grown. We've got like a base of over 8,000 people. And the activities that we started to do were coming from the community directly. So we've just recently started a book club that is headed by a specific person from the community. So a lot of the initiatives that we do are people told us we would like for you to do this because we believe it's going to be impactful for our community. So it does feel like we've grown with our base and they feel like they are part of the movement as well.
And is that that 8,000 people, because that's an incredible number in such a short space of time? What's the kind of makeup? Like who engages with this? Is it all people that are currently in data? And if so, what kind of roles and jobs are they doing? And sort of geographical split? Is this mainly kind of a UK centric thing, or have you sort of got your roots and branches a bit further than that?
Yeah, so when we first started, we just thought, okay, we'll just do a small thing, not even UK based. We were thinking very London based, right?
South London, I bet as well.
Yeah, so why not? The best place in the world. So we are 40% UK based. The rest, we have a large base in the US, West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone. We have quite a few following in the Netherlands. I had no idea there's a massive data community out there. We love them.
Yeah.
As far as New Zealand, Australia, so we literally, when we look at the spread, we've just recently done it, we would say we are touching every corner of the globe with this movement. And
incredible.
That's from people that identify as data enthusiasts, so not necessarily working in the data space, but they just love to create dashboards.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, there's like a massive community of people that build things for fun and post it on LinkedIn. So they've started following us right all the way to like chief data officer level. So it's a very wide-ranging group of experiences and ages as well. I mean, we started with these college students, but I guess because we're working closely with them now, university, right all the way to people that used to be in healthcare, that were teachers and have just sort of retrained perhaps during the pandemic and have joined our group, and we've been supporting them as well.
Incredible. And I know that that doesn't happen by accident, and either the right effort goes into it or the thing that you've created is so needed, right? People wouldn't gravitate something if it wasn't needed. So it's incredible what you've created there. And I think what you're putting on, so the mentoring, the meetups, the workshops, that sort of thing, to support the community, raise their confidence, give them someone to, they can look up to, people they can share their stories with, and learn together. That peer-to-peer kind of thing is incredibly important. The other bit that's important, which you did touch on, is how we change, so that's the community of people that are wanting to get better in their careers, wanting to develop themselves, wanting to learn with people that are like them, and all those really great things. But there's it sort of needs to be reciprocated. There needs to be somewhere for them to go. Is the industry, in your mind, doing enough to provide, to either proactively seek out talent, and two, doing enough to create the opportunities for these 8,000 people to have somewhere to go, and earn some money from this thing if it's not a hobby?
Yeah. I think as an industry, data is very open to new things, and to change.
Yeah.
But sometimes organizations get stuck in a rut. There's a lot of bureaucracy around change, and change ultimately for me has to start from the top. What I've been seeing is a lot of interest is coming from the bottom up. So people that are everyday analysts and data professionals are the ones that are driving this change. They want to see more diversity in their spaces, but that requires resources, that requires commitment, and it cannot just be a gimmick or a fad or something that is a buzzword for the moment, and then it fizzes out after a while. It has to be sustainable, and it has to be long term. And for us to really see that change, organizations have to make policies, long-term changes, and have resources attached to those commitments. Otherwise, we really will not see the change that we're hoping for. And unfortunately, that, for me, in my opinion, it is happening, but the rate that is happening is just far too slow. I cannot say to you, I've seen one single example that I can give you to say this is a space where they're committed to seeing diversity within data and they're doing it well. I cannot see that. I see a lot of intention and goodwill, but that isn't really enough to have the change that we all want to see.
Yeah, well, I hope this podcast is a good additional point, not even starting point, because you're well on the way, but a good additional point to help get the message out to particularly a leadership audience that have got the keys to sort of help with that change. I wonder, and I've been sort of talking to a few people about this. There's a lot of talk about skill and talent gap in data, but actually, you know, you're proving that there's loads of people who are chomping at the bit to get into this industry, and but then don't have the access. So
Absolutely.
we've got organizations and the industry saying talent gap, and we've got a load of talent waiting to go, I really want to get into this, I'm passionate about it, I want to do it. Why don't we join those two things together? That's where I'm starting to see a sort of a bit of a disconnect, but an opportunity that says, well, let's take the blinkers off this talent gap challenge and start to look in places that, as you say, it takes a bit of change, but that can really start to open the door that allows this change to start happening. Obviously not always easy, as you've called out, but I like to think that with that intent can lead to some action.
I hope so. And I giggle whenever I hear people say, oh no, the talent isn't there. It's ridiculous. If you keep fishing in the same pool and expect to get the same result, right, or different result, then you know you've got a problem. If we are saying to you, reach out to those communities that are out there and they are ready to work. You just need to do a little bit of the work, and which I find most organizations are either not ready to do or don't want to commit the resources to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple things like, certainly in large corporate, the recruitment agencies that have got the kind of prime contract, you know, they aren't looking in different places and they're sort of fishing in the same pool that they always fish in. You just don't open that opportunity up. So I do think there's some really small things that people can do that would have a big impact. So brilliant, and I really hope I know we've spoken a couple of times before we started recording, and I was so keen to support and help that, because it's not just even diversity, ethnic diversity here. There's all sorts of diversity, underrepresented groups in business in general, actually, but it's certainly in data that I think would benefit from from this kind of change happening.
Yeah, absolutely. You're preaching to the converted.
Yeah,
here.
for sure. Yeah. Don't need to convince you. I just want to go back, actually. Again, you mentioned, one of the other things you mentioned was about the teens in data. So, and that workshop sounds brilliant. I might see if some of my team want to go on that, by the way. I suppose that's grassroots. That's creating opportunity for people to get into the industry early doors, right, before university, before people have selected. How big an impact do you think that has on the individuals that take part in it, and is it influencing where they go to university or the types of courses they take, the type of work they go into? Is it just a bit early days for you to know that yet?
For us, they're so inquisitive, the students that we meet. So these are just exactly sort of discussions that we are having with them. They ask us about specific universities that we would recommend for them to go to. They ask about specific courses that we believe they need to take in order to get into data roles. I'm not from the school of thought that believes you all have to have a mathematical degree in order to get into data. Some of the most amazing data professionals that I've met, they don't have a PhD in mathematics. Some of them have done sociology. We need variety, right? So diversity of mind, of thought. I don't believe it's a good idea for all of us to have a mathematical background, because we will end up doing the exact same things over and over again. But of course, a good understanding of maths is just a given. It's a basic requirement. So I encourage them to do things that they love to do, right? In terms of the courses that they take up at university. And also, in terms of which uni to go to, again, I tell them not just to look at the overall university ranking. There's so much more to university than your overall grade that you come out with. You could be, you can come out with a first class degree and absolutely have zero social skills. What we do in data requires you to talk to people. You need to be able to communicate well in terms of the findings that you've got. So it's not enough to just be able to code very well, and that's the only thing that you rely on. You need to have a really good, just be the whole package, be able to do data and analytics and be able to communicate effectively. And we work together the majority of the time. Be sociable. Nobody wants to be in an office with a guy that doesn't talk to them, who's just in the corner doing their coding. So I encourage
more rounded skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. More rounded human being altogether, I think. I mean, be pleasant to people. These are just lovely skills to have that will make you more appealing to a recruiter when they're ready to go into the working world. So I'm a bit airy-fairy. I encourage them to continue to be who they are, not to lose that individuality, because that's another thing that we feel that we have to do as Black people, to lose who we are, to start code switching, to start sounding like, a different person, so to increase our chances of landing a job. So for me, I tell them to be happy in what they're doing, and it's okay. They'll probably land on their feet eventually, right? It is okay to start a career maybe in medicine and decide it's not for you, and then jump into data. Why not?
Or be like geophysics and then into Python. Yeah, exactly. Why not?
It's okay. Exactly. You've got more to talk about at a dinner table, right?
Yeah. Well, rounded experiences, especially if there's a 2-year travel to Indonesia thrown in the mix. Incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
Incredible. Listen, Sadiqah, it's been a pleasure talking to you. There's so much here and so much change needed, and obviously we've scratched the surface on it really, and there's 8,000 people there kind of looking up to you to support this. And I know I mentioned, I don't want to scare, that's
very scary. Yeah. That is very scary.
Well, the other thing that's scary, I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke off air, was that we ran an event called Cynozure Plus, and my opening talk was about brave leadership, and how, yes, when you think of brave leaders, you can think of people like Zelensky, and you can think of people like all the great leaders of our time and have come before us. But actually, my point is that there's real brave leadership happening day to day in industry, in business. People going for pay reviews, people asking for a new job, people switching careers like you've done. And one of the pictures I showed everyone was your team, the Black in Data team. This was before I'd met you, actually. And to show that someone needs to show some brave leadership to step up in a challenge like the one that you've expressed and do something. And I truly believe that you've got to be brave to step up to do something like this. And I hope this 8,000 goes to 16,000, and we start to kind of make a real shift. So I appreciate you coming on the show to talk about it.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. And I hope you enjoyed this show, everyone. Lots to do here, and I hope this has sparked some thought and some interest, and we can start to move the needle on this. So thanks everyone again, and we'll catch you again soon.